Welcome to Money Talk Viewpoint. I'm Shauntel Leeson. We are the podcast of Virtual Family Office. And for those of you who are not familiar, you have an opportunity to meet best in class, full line financial advisors, attorneys, accountants, investment bankers, concierge practices. But for those of you who are in that industry and looking for a place to market your services, you want to come to Money Talk Viewpoint. Today, our special guest is Stuart Kruse. He's more than a special guest. He's also a host on many of our shows. He brings top level people. Stuart, before I introduce you, can I brag about you a little bit here? Stuart,
You're my guest.
he's my favorite. He's a quant investment advisor, top of the line. He's top of the line professional that he interviews on our show. He's a CFO and founder of Kruse Asset Management, TEDx speaker. Am I right? Author. What else one other thing. He's a husband, proud father of 4 kids.
Yeah.
Stuart, welcome to our show.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks, Shauntel. Lovely to be on the other side of the desk, so to speak.
Because what I really want to talk about is what we do, and that's virtual family office. I want you to share with the audience, first of all, family office, virtual family office, and for the financial people out there who are like the registered investment advisors, why we are different than just a silo of just financial advisors or financial professionals. You can take it from here, Stuart.
Yeah. Um, that's great. So the family office concept, for those of you who don't know, and I find it feels like about 50% of the people out there, even in the world of finance, really understand the family office concept. And it was rumored to be created with the Rockefellers. Now, obviously synonymous with having a lot of money. The idea is they have a team of financial professionals working on their behalf to optimizing their finances. So, a wealth advisor, a CPA, a private equity guy, an estate planning lawyer are all employed by Rockefeller to work on their behalf to make their money grow and work better. Now, the current model for most people that do not have 500 million or $1 billion and up that can afford that payroll, the current model is the client sits in the middle. The client has to be the go-between the CPA, the wealth advisor, the insurance guy, the estate planning lawyer, and everybody. So if I present my client with an idea, often I will hear, let me get back to you. I need to talk to my CPA about this, which is fine, but the client hired the CPA and the wealth advisor and the insurance broker and everybody because they're not necessarily probably an expert in that area. So something often gets lost in that translation between the client and the CPA. And the client has to have the conversation in a language maybe that they're not as familiar with. Not to be disparaging upon the client, because the client has his own set of expertise that usually their work, they've built a widget factory, they're doing whatever it is that they do really, really well, and they hired us to do our thing really, really well. So the new model is the virtual family office model is instead of having the client in the middle as the hub and we're all spokes, we all collect together as if we are a virtual family office. We all talk amongst ourselves as if, and we are working on behalf of the client. We come to arrangements and understandings in our own language as far as what's the best asset mix, the best steps for the client, present that to the client. And quite frankly, the high net worth people, that's what they want. They don't want to have to go back and forth to all these people and be the translator interpreter. What they want to do is get an answer from their trusted advisors. And if we're all working together as a team, pick an analogy, a sporting team or whatever, a surgical team, you would much rather have them working together on your behalf and saying, this is what we plan, as opposed to the client being in the middle directing all the traffic. So that's what a virtual family is. And I think we do it really, really well. It's the new model.
Yeah, you know what it is? I'm going to say, when I think about family office, I think of the Walton family, Sam Walton, Walmart. They have a team of professionals, but see, the average middle market person, somebody with a million to 25 million or even 50 million, they can't afford to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to pay that kind of staff.
Millions of dollars of payroll. It just you have to be worth 500 million and up in order to have a true family office of your own. It's the only thing that makes sense.
And the other thing I want to add to it is that we don't pick people ad hoc. They're part of our team. I'm not going to go through a list of leads to find someone to bring to that team.
Right. These are all vetted people. They've all been vetted. by other financial advisors. And in our world, Shauntel, you and our world on this group, I would like to think we have this phrase called a blue ocean. And I'd like to think that, in theory, you and I are somewhat competitors, right? And we're competitors in a variety of other ways. I have no problem reaching out to some of my other wealth advisors that have a particular area of expertise. And I know these guys have also used some of the experts on the platform. So we collaborate even amongst our competitors to make sure that the people we're using are well vetted and experts in their industry and top of the line. So I can go out there and shoot a message to dozens of financial advisors. Have you used this guy that's on our platform that I want to use? If I haven't used him already, now I probably used half of the people, that I'm going to use anyway. So I'm comfortable. But if it's somebody that I haven't used before, I also have a resource. I'm not just, as you point out, in the phone book looking for some random person. I've got somebody who's been vetted by dozens, if not more, financial advisors that we are extremely confident that they're going to do a great job.
I want to add one other thing to that too. If I don't have what I need, I can find it within that elite resource network.
Yep.
That's a critical factor. You want to make sure you're working with a group of people that have already been vetted by a group of people.
Right.
So you can feel comfortable within that market that you're working with.
It's everything, right? It's everything. Yeah, I can find somebody that in theory hangs a shingle and you can do the work, but I don't know if they're any good. But on this platform through Elite Resources, I mean, there are, again, dozens and hundreds of advisors around the country that are tapping into this network of people in order to vet and report back on how they are as a service provider. And are they top of the line or are they mediocre? If they're mediocre, they don't last very long. So they're out, right?
Right.
It's almost a self-selecting situation where only the best of the best get to stick around.
That's the whole purpose. I want to tell you that too. I've been in the retail. I've been in the industry for a very long time, but the bulk of my experience has been in retail sales. I thought that I was working in back office and I landed in the retail. I thought that would be the best place for me. But one of my experiences I can share with you is that, so I would go before the client myself, make all the decisions myself, make all the recommendations myself. And I'd pick out some accountant that I knew that I met somewhere, or they'd pick out some attorney that they met somewhere. And sometimes the advice would be conflicting. Yep. So I could say one thing to the client and tell him I would recommend a product. He would go to some accountant that he knew that would say, no, don't go with that. My brother-in-law sells the same thing. And you wind up losing a good case because your team is not a team. They're just a bunch of ad hoc people thrown together. That is not a family office. So right. The financial advisors out there, the registered investment advisors who are independent practices out there, you want to come look at our platform, Elite Resources, where Stuart and I go to. Come to a talk show with us and become one of our speakers and get involved so the public gets to know you. But it's a better opportunity to profile your services to a higher quality and learn something, because one of the good parts about Elite Resources is that it also is a teaching platform. You're going to learn how to be a better advisor in what you do.
So 100%. I'll even give you a more close to home example. Prior to me taking on this role of a virtual family office, because my clients, I thought if I just did the portfolio advisory the best I could be, that should be good enough. Just go super deep in my skill set and that should be good enough. And then I had clients say to me, well, let's just assume you're better than everybody else. Okay, that may be a stretch, but I'm going to give it to you. You're better than everybody else. And maybe you're even 10% better than everybody else on the planet.
Right.
I'm going to give it to you.
All right, the wild one.
Oh, it's a wild one, right? So, but I have other needs. And so even if that's all you do is portfolio asset management and you're 10% better than absolutely everybody on the planet, it doesn't make up for the additional needs that I have. And I was like, that's 100% right. So when I had a client come to me and say, I have 3 kids, I'm underinsured, I need to buy insurance, I'm conflicted, because any money that leaves my house, even though I'm a fiduciary, that leaves my house means my billing rate goes down. And now I'm in a conversation with the client, and the client's in the middle between him and the insurance person about what the asset allocation looks like, because the insurance person is trying to sell as much assets as they can. The CPA is also brought in, and the client has to be the go-between there. So now this model is, I work directly with the insurance person. Mr. Insurance Person, what's the best asset allocation? You have a product that can't lose in value. I have an asset allocation model and I need some safe assets according to my allocation model. Let's find a good mix that makes sense for the client and for everybody that's involved. And you and I are working together, not only for just this case, but for future cases. So we are not trying to just sell one insurance policy or sell one plan to a client. We're trying to build a deep relationship between he and I as well, a trusted relationship, so we can continue to move forward and provide this higher level of service to all of our clients. So it's a win-win on multiple dimensions. And there's a lot of checks and balances there in order so that the client ends up with the best possible experience. It's really pretty fantastic.
I can't compare to anything else. I don't care how great your firm is. I don't care. It doesn't matter who you are. You cannot compare a team-based model where people learn to develop, they learn about one another so they can develop the trust that it takes to go forward with a client. I can tell you, I've had some very, very large clients as a retail broker. And the danger of what happens is you come in with that product and your sales manager says he goes and gets someone else in your sales team to go sell him more. And you say, I don't want the client to have that, but now you're stuck.
Yeah, I don't care if you're Goldman. Like I worked at several large investment banks and we weren't allowed to talk to the CPA. We were barely allowed to give them year-end reports of gain and loss, that the critical data they needed to fill out their tax returns. You had to go through compliance in order just to get that letter out to them. But that was it. You could not have a conversation about tax mitigation strategies or anything because compliance couldn't control them. There is no way you get the level of service at any large bank that you do through this virtual family office. And as a fiduciary, where my responsibility to my client is to provide them the best possible solution, and that's not the responsibility of a brokerage house, but my responsibility, best possible solution. The only way I can do that is working collaboratively with the other experts. The broker's responsibility is good enough. Suitability, good enough. So I can give you a product that's good enough so that I don't get in trouble. If you're a large net worth person, you want the best level of service. Yeah. Good enough isn't good enough, right?
Yeah, something I want to say for the high net worth clients, you sort of put them at risk by not being in a virtual family office.
Yeah.
It's only because, unfortunately, I can tell you, I can go over tons and tons of cases in my past experiences where the managers thought, oh, she's just not competent. It was not a matter of not being competent, it's a matter of integrity. I recognize that the person has a lot of money. If I keep shoving down their throat more of our house product, I am putting them at risk. I'm not helping them, I'm risking them. And so they say, oh, she doesn't know what she's doing. It's not about I don't know what I'm. Unfortunately, I knew more than what I owned up to. I had been an enrolled agent, so I was an accredited accountant. I was a financial advisor. I had all these, God knows how many licenses. I've been in the business for years, but the results were the same. You get to a certain level, the client's got 5 million or 10 million. The company goes wild because they're used to running for 401k rollovers. But you bring that large account, they think you're out of your mind because you could have sold him 10 times that amount of a mutual fund or whatever product they recommended on their platform. And now you're thinking, wait, I don't want to do that. And it really is out of good conscience. You're saying to yourself, wait, I don't want to just shove. The guy lives in my neighborhood. I don't want him. I want to go to the grocery store and be able to smile at him and his wife and kids. You want to be able to have a high quality service. You want to provide the best advice. And this is my recommendation to anyone listening to us. If you're working with, whether it's a firm or you're independent, particularly if you're an independent RIA, you want to look at the virtual family office model. It is going to be the best. It's going to be the greatest platform you'll ever put yourself in the hands of because you have an opportunity to work with top of the line people. And if you're not top of the line, they will train you. You'll take classes and you'll learn to become better at what you're doing. But it's the best thing you can ever bring to yourself and for your clients. And not only that, you'll meet higher quality people. You'll be working with high quality CPAs. You'll be helping them make smart decisions. You'll be thinking out of the box of things you've never even considered in the past.
Yep.
Go ahead. You're going to say something there.
You and I have dozens of examples where you're at a large brokerage firm and there's just a conflict of interest. One of my favorites is I can remember the manager, my manager walking out of his office, and he just got out of a review. And at the time, I don't know if this is the case for all or even any firms right now, but not that long ago, he was just, these large banks, they get paid off of amount of margin that they put their clients on, because margin business is a really profitable business, right? The interest rates are really low. They take almost no risk because they already have all the stocks available. They can't leverage it more than 2 to 1. So they're never at risk of not getting that loan paid back. And they're charging 2, 3, 4 times what the market rates are for margin. So the manager is getting paid off of margin. He bursts out of his office and literally yells across the floor, literally, "We need more margin.
Oh, God.
All of your clients to be on margin." And I'm like, so if you're charging 8, 9, 10%, which is going rate, not only do I have to beat the S&P, but I got to beat the S&P by 10% a year just to break even. And that was his message to us. We need more margin so he could get paid. Best thing for my client? No, absolutely not. Best thing for any client? No, absolutely not. But that's what happens when you're motivated not by let's provide the best solution, but you're motivated by something else in a brokerage firm.
You know, there's a scene in a movie. I'm thinking the movie was Arbitrage. I'm trying to think of the scene. I think it's Arbitrage, the movie where the guy
Arbitrage, Wolf on Wall Street. Pick one of them. Those anecdotes aren't that far from the truth some of the time.
I was going to say, you know, I've been seeing guys climb under their desk. So I used to sell initial public offerings, so I know how that market works. But yeah, those are not far from the truth. And that's the reality, is that a lot of us want to do the best for our clients. And sometimes you don't know that virtual family office exists. All I knew was the big family offices, because, you know, when you work for the big firms I've worked for, they have their own sort of family office built intact. But when it comes to that market, the area where I didn't have that access to them. So, but then, because I didn't have the billionaire clients, I had good clients, millionaires, but I didn't have billionaires. I mean, a lot of we live in the market of millionaires. So we get used to it. But you don't have that opportunity to meet that level. And he's right. Your compliance officer has to approve the fact that you're going to meet with an attorney. And because I would tell them when I'm going to go meet with the attorney to help the client get the trust documents together. And they want me to shove this product on that person before they make that decision. And your heart is in your hand. You feel like, do I want to do this to this person? You know, look at the risk I'm putting. I'm going to put him in all that same bucket of products just so that he gets a bigger bonus. You know, it just, to me, is a world that a lot of people do not understand. And for those of you who are peeling out of your firms, going to set up a private practice for yourself, I would well recommend you take that next step. Reach out to me here at Money Talk Viewpoint, right here on our YouTube channel. And we'll guide you into the elite resource team, because you want to be able to make the smart decisions. Because whether it's your mom or dad, because they own a business, or your uncle who owns a business, or you've met that mega client that has 25 million, and now you want to run to your boss who's going to snatch it out of your hands to shove it down there. That's what they do. Believe me, I bring the big accounts into the house. They would snatch it out of my hand and give me a lead for some bread and butter account. I got to share this with you, Stuart. I got to tell you this one. They did me one time. They shoved me a lead for a bread and butter account. Now, I lived in Lake Forest, which is very exclusive. You know the town. It's a very, very exclusive town. And I knew by the address, this is not, the guy's house was like about $8 million. I knew darn well this is not a bread and butter account. I said, it's probably his nephew worked for the company, gave him enough to do an IRA, and that was it. But as soon as I did, I met the client, it's like my firm, my management team wanted to make sure that the client thought I was a horrible person and incompetent, didn't know my name, just to move the account. And that's not uncommon, because they want to see that account with tons and tons of their product, because that's how. And listen, our goal is not to tear down firms. We're not doing that. We're just dealing with the reality that a lot of financial advisors face, and they're stuck between a rock and a hard place: how to grow and where to go. Yep. And we're going to recommend, and I'm going to stand by this one, because this is a whole new world. It's a whole new world where you're not just running to the accountant over here, or to the attorney over there, or to whatever it is. And then not only that, not only do you have those guys to deal with, you got them recommending their cousin or friend to sell the same product you're selling. So you want to leave an account of that whole nonsense. You know what, Stuart? I'm going to jump to one other subject, because you and I, we're going to be in this for the next 8 hours. I'm going to talk about Kruse Asset Management. Let's talk about you. You got a book coming out. You run a company, Kruse Asset Management. Let's share a little bit about what you do and your book.
Okay, so I guess I can start with the book, and it's been a long time coming, and hopefully I'll get it out soon. But it's built off of the quantitative asset management structure that we have in place at Kruse Asset Management. So the research suggests that making decisions using math and statistics is better than not using math and statistics. And that seems somewhat obvious, but I think intuitively, if we stop to think about it, we always like to trust our gut. We always like to, put our own spin and flavor on it. But there have been a lot of studies done where people that are, let's say, had some sort of brain injury or that reduced their emotional load so that they couldn't make emotional decisions, they end up trading better, they end up being better investors. And so when you make decisions with a emotional void, and my wife would say, a little bit more on the spectrum, like a lot of financial guys are, then it tends to be better. So we take that one step further and we allow our computers to kind of make some of these decisions. So we asked a fundamental question: are there characteristics of companies and stocks that tend to lead towards outperformance? And there are characteristics that tend to lead towards outperformance. Does not work all the time, doesn't work in every market environment, but over long run, just think of Warren Buffett. He tends to buy value-based companies. He tends to buy quality-based companies that are reasonably priced. He tends to buy things at a discount. These are all characteristics that if you mathematically test them, lo and behold, work. And what Buffett would say is, I don't know if I bought this and it's going to work out in the next 3 or 6 months or even 3 years. But if I buy a quality company at a good price, in 10 years, I'm going to win. And so I'm not saying you have to hold on to our portfolio for 10 years. What I'm saying is, if I'm investing with the odds in my favor, over time, I should win for my clients. And that's what we do. And so the book is called, License to Steal, Turn Wall Street Greed into Your Gain. The reason why I came up with this title was when I passed my Series 7, I had a big broker, again, a broker with a slew of conflicts of interest, working at a large firm in New York City. And he said, did you pass? And I said, I passed. He said, congratulations, you now have a license to steal, which implies you can just steal money from your clients. That is the implication. And that was like, I deflated then. I was like, oh, that's not what I signed up for. I don't want to steal money from my clients. I'm trying to do a good job. So the idea is how to turn Wall Street greed into your gain. How do you flip the tables? How do you at least make them level? Because most retail clients are not at a level playing field. The institutions have a much bigger advantage than they realize. And so there are things that we can do to more level the playing field and even flip, and what we'll say, take the other side of that trade. So if you've got a bunch of people making a trade that is not in their best interest, let's take the other side of that trade. And so that's what this book is about. What areas help the retail client take the other side of the trade and at least level the playing field, if not get a step ahead?
Are you on now? Where can they find the book? Are you on the market already?
Not on the market already. I'm like 95% through editing. So I booked out my book cover, my title, we're edited. I just need to put the finishing touches on it and get it in wrap. So maybe I can do it in the next, hey, I don't know if I'll get it out by Christmas, but hopefully by the end of the year.
You know what? I'm going to tell anybody listening to our show, email us. And we'll email us, and what we'll do, we'll follow up with you so you can get a copy of Stuart's book at the right price. We're not doing it for free, am I right? but email. So this is an opportunity to learn what's really going on the inside. This is an opportunity to get to that next level.
Yep.
Yeah. Sure. One thing I want to talk about. You mentioned alternative investments. Get the audience here a little bit more feedback on what that is, because a lot of people don't understand these big pictures. We talk in our world, and we understand what we're talking about. And there are people that have advisors themselves that don't talk to them about the things they're going to hear about on our show. Let me digress for a moment. I want you to go. I want the audience, if you haven't done so, start going through some of our. We have short clips, full videos, and podcasts. The short clips are 60 seconds long. Go in and listen to some. Stuart has some really high, I got good people too, but Stuart, you've done better than me. You've got some really he's got top dogs.
Thank you very much.
He's got best of the best. Mergers and acquisitions, a former prosecutor who became an attorney. I mean, really, you've got some really top of the line people. But tell us about, tell these guys about alternative investments a bit.
So an alternative investment, the best way to put it is, most people are very familiar with stocks and bonds. Alternative investment is everything that's not a stock and a bond, kind of in that wheelhouse. So you could think of real estate, crypto, commodities, private equity, venture capital, everything that doesn't really fit neatly in, I'll add cash, stocks, bonds, cash, can be considered to be an alternative. And why would we want that? Well, I've got a handful of reasons. Um, Part of building a portfolio, you're trying to find asset classes that have low correlations to the other investment vehicles you have. So if you own stocks, adding bonds, which tend to be not highly correlated to stocks, helps make your portfolio more efficient. And more efficient to us is more return per unit of risk. Everybody wants more return for the amount of risk that they have. That's what we're trying to do, is create better returns for the amount of risk you're willing to take. So if I add bonds to a stock portfolio, that increases your efficiency, you get better returns per unit of risk. If I add another asset class like crypto, the math suggests a little bit of crypto gives you higher returns per unit of risk. I think most people want that all day. Things that we talk about with alternatives that are very easy to discuss would be, let's say, private equity. And private equity sounds pretty scary. So private equity is equity that's not public, it's private. So you buy Apple stock. Apple is a publicly traded company. Kruse Asset Management is a company that has stock. It is not publicly traded. It is private. It is a private equity in theory. So there are companies that go out there and buy, maybe not Kruse Asset Management, but may buy other money management firms, may buy specialty chemical companies, paper companies, tech companies that are not trading on the public markets, but that are private. So why would we want that? Well, there's a couple answers. First, when I got in the business 20 plus years ago, 25 coming up on now, there were around 10,000 publicly traded companies available to invest in. Now it's a lot closer to 3,000. So the number of public companies that were available to buy has been cut by 2/3, more than 2/3. So if I actually still want the same choice that I had 25 years ago, I have to go into the private markets. I don't really have a choice. And not many people realize this. You want that same exposure, you literally have to go outside the public markets. There's another clue in that arguably the most successful endowment funds, Harvard and Yale, they routinely produce up like 20% annualized returns, upper double-digit annualized returns. If I were to say we routinely get 18, 19, 20, 25% annualized returns in the public market, I'd be crazy. I'd be lying, probably, pretty much, because it just is not available. Those kind of long-term sustained returns just haven't happened in the public markets. But those endowment funds have been able to get those returns because they invest in high-end private equity, as much as 40%. Now, 40% may not be an appropriate allocation for most retail investors because Harvard and Yale have an extremely long, if not an infinite timeline that they can consider. But there's a clue in that success. And so would 10 or 20% be a reasonable amount of investment into a private equity strategy for a retail client? I think so. I don't think it's bad. So private equity and alternatives at large are assets that are not publicly traded, that are not very typical like stocks and bonds, but that enable your portfolio to be more efficient, more returns for the unit of risk you're willing to take on.
You know, we're running out of time here in about a few more minutes. I'm going to say this. For those people, I know a lot of our clients, people that are listening to our show, and you're picking up on YouTube in the Evergreen, you want to reach out to us on the show. Just tap base with, send us a message through YouTube, and we'll respond back to you. Because a lot of your financial advisors, they're working for a large house, they may not have the access to private equity. They may be, and if depending upon where you are, you may be just in the mutual fund area, and all due respect, you may not have any access to any of the things that Stuart's talking about today, but you have money that you want to see grow. And what's happening, Stuart's right, is that the private market is getting bigger than the public market. Who was it? Charlie Munger, before he passed, he said that the public stocks are not what they used to be.
Yeah.
What the quality is just not there. We see back in the day when I was born, I'm a few minutes older than Stuart. Back in the day when I was a little kid, we would get a Christmas gift from my Aunt George and Uncle Bert, a share of Sears Roebuck stock. We got Sears Roebuck stock. a railroad stock, one or two of those, and we had a government bond. And our big thing was to take that thing to the, we get dressed up in our best, Sunday clothes. I was Catholic, come to mass, and then go to the bank on Monday to take this to put in our safe deposit box.
Yeah.
But in those days, a Sears Roebuck stock was worth a ton of money, and people retired from Sears very well off because the stock was so good. Stocks aren't doing that today. They were built to last. They were built to last a generation, like 20, 100 years practically. Sears, IBM, those companies lasted. Today, we're doing a churn and burn on companies. They're coming and going too quickly. So again, I'm going to reach out. Stuart, you got a last thing to say you want to offer before we wrap up here?
No, I think you've nailed it. Like, reach out to us. There's a lot of people out there that don't have access, that aren't in this world. They get along, they go along to get along. So if the company or client wants to own Apple, there's anything wrong with Apple stock, but they don't really seek to educate the client on what is the best course of action for them. And that's what we do here at the Virtual Family Office. We really aim to do what's right for the client.
Stuart, tell them your contact information.
Yeah, best way to reach me is Stuart at kruseam.com, and that's Kruse, KRUSEAM, as in assetmanagement.com. I'm on LinkedIn, same thing, LinkedIn at KruseAM, YouTube channel, KruseAM. Pick all the things at KruseAM, or reach out to this channel, Money Talk Viewpoint, and Shauntel, or make a comment, and I answer personally those comments directly. So.
And I want to add that this is, again, Stuart is also one of the hosts of our show. So if you see a Stuart a lot, he's my cousin. So he'll be on a lot of the shows. And I'm grateful that Stuart, it's been awesome to have you. I thank you again for I got to say this, because Stuart came early when my show was in awful shape. We didn't know who to pick. We didn't know where to go. We had to find the right direction. And he trusted me all the way through. So I really thank you for the trust. And I thank you for the quality of people you bring onto the show. And I thank anyone on the audience who's watching today and is watching us in Evergreen. And again, you're watching Money Talk Viewpoint. Go ahead, Stuart.
I said it's been great to be a part of it, Shauntel. So thanks for having me included.
Thank you much.